It's Tuesday, 28th of November, 2017. You're in the midst of your week. I hope that you are well. Sidestepping the negative by grounding your feet, placing God first in all that you do. Why? Because you are priceless. You are one of a kind. You are original, as well as you have a story embarked upon. So therefore, you must be able to find courage, to be aware, to just be you. How you doing, family? I hope you're well. I hope that your week brings you abundance, clarity, but also defines who you are. Why? Because no one will be able to shoulder the responsibility known as your life. But as you already know, in a town near you, in a city near you, in a state near you, in a country worldwide, there's still that sacred choice called free will because it is your decide to claim you, can it be manifested? But I've come to realize now that we have so many distractions, so many underlining agendas being put forth. We are in a place with, where you must decide. You must take note what is being offered compared to what is being compromised. Because without that, will you not be able to reach your end goal, but to fully understand what you are being exposed to. That's right, family, because there is a lot of smoke, a lot of filters, a lot of distractions waiting for you as soon as you step outside your door to partake in. And now more than ever, it's very important that you go within yourself, solidify that commitment. That is the motivation for that beautiful smile because there's only one smile. Did you hear what I said? Only one smile that you, your temple, your muscles, just like the rays of the sun, it's bright. It can light up a room. And it is the closest representation of what love looks like. Who am I talking to? You know, it's so amazing now that we have gotten to a state in society where you hear monikers or phrases being thrown around so cavalierly, like silence equals condonement, or you may hear, if you're not in my circle, you must be a square. But if you're not willing to stand by yourself, to do that emotional inventory, as I've always said in the past, everybody has an emotional backpack that we have to have the courage to look within. These things are what make up our insecurities. These are also the things that form our perceptions and ideology. But the question that seems to be kicked around like a old soda can is why we can't. Why do we refuse to look at what's apparent? And why will we not have the strength to allow ourselves to do this assessment? 50% of it can be narrowed down to the fact that you have people that refuse to see how unique but beautiful they are. And they base their self-esteem on what is being offered as a level of acceptance. You do know you're being compromised when you choose to do that. You do know that, right? Because there'll never be another you. And I understand there are countless people that will echo the sentiments of, hey, imitation is flattery. Well, if that was the case, why is it when there's disappointment, that disappointment is not shouldered? Why is it when a setback comes, there's no unification or support? Why is that? Because we choose to allow our self-esteem, our self-worth, and what defines the making of us to be filtered. In other words, why is it now in 2017 we find more comfort to explore, display, and promote our sexuality than who we are? You do understand your sexuality is just no more than sprinkles on a sundae. It is just nothing but a descriptive form of identifying how you respond. But if you do not find comfort in your emotions, how can you truly understand what is required for your happiness? Who am I talking to? Do you realize how different the world would be in a dynamic that if people would put more focus in their development, how much of an impact that would have financially, socially, as well as individually, because you would see value in being able to be yourself. Now, I know for some people, they're going to say, I look here, you're telling me what I already know, and I'm going to go ahead and click this off. That's okay. I'm just validating what's already in your spirit. And if that's all that is needed to send that message that, hey, look here, I need to do some self-inventory, I've done my job. But it is just such a travesty and a tragedy to see someone with so much promise to walk around on this planet without a smile, to go through life and they seem frozen, or better yet, choose to remain still and become a martyr to a cause that will never spawn growth. Who am I talking to? When the next time, when are you going to decide to get comfortable with who you really are? I'm talking to somebody. You've already gone through the stages of saying, well, you know what? If I change the perception of how I'm viewed in the world, maybe I'll find some acceptance. But guess what? You know that's not correct, because you go in your closet and you still see things that you went tags on that you forgot that you bought. So what is it that needs to be done? What is it that you truly know that you need to seek? What is it that you wish to possess that will make you feel whole? You know, you can't find safety in the arms of a stranger. You do know that, right? But you'll gladly find time wasted. But what you won't find is truth. And a lot of times we see in society where we have a lot of people that are like, dun, 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 I'm all about my sexuality and getting it in. But guess what? If that action does not have love in it, it becomes bittersweet. The reality of the temporary distraction becomes very evident. That's why we have guilt. That's why fears seem to come from out of nowhere. It was all good yesterday, Gerald, but now I don't know them. Who am I talking to? You know why? Because for a mere second of clarity, your spirit validated theirs, and you felt what a stranger looks like. But see, well, look, let me throw this disclaimer out here. I'm going to say some things to reach the intended heart and intended mind. And I hope that what is conveyed will either shake the cobwebs from your spirit or bring awareness. But just know this: you deserve to be loved. You deserve to be treasured. You deserve to be respected. But none of that can come to pass until you do it for yourself. So you may be in this phase right now that you got some wounds. You got some scar tissue emotionally. And what results is what we know as bitterness. And it is transcended through your behavior. We know. You see it every day. There's somebody that either you're connected to by blood or bone, or you're connected to them through your work occupation, but you can tell they are off sync. They're not in their natural flow. And you just can't put your finger to it. Or it may be manifested in the behavior of how they communicate. And you're like, okay, this ain't got nothing to do with the job. Why are they rebelling? Just a child, just like a child. A child will always rebel because it's seeking acceptance. Think about it. Think about all the children that are willfully playing with harm, seeking the streets than the confounds of where they lay their head. And no matter what you try to convey, it goes in one ear, out the other. And as if they are being called. They are being called, family. Because at the end of the day, guess what? You filter all the allegory. You filter all the labels. It's about the spirit. It's about your soul. If your soul is not at peace, you can't expect your life to. That's why choosing to live an alternate self, a fake persona, mind, body, spirit. Where is that energy going to if it ain't you? And worse, who is reaping the benefit from that? It takes courage to admit to yourself what you need. But it also shows yourself being heroic if you will admit it. Now, I understand we are living in an era that, in lack of a better word, I seen this. I saw this position of attitude almost 30 years ago. Everything that you're seeing right now, I saw this 30 years ago when I was serving in the United States Air Force. And I saw this dynamic when I was in Europe. And I noticed, and not to have a judging heart, I was made aware and tried to find middle ground to understand it. Doesn't mean I agreed with it, but there was always an opportunity to learn a different dynamic of what's being presented, because that's what God gonna do. God is going to always give you an opportunity. That's why history always repeats, because he's telling man, do you understand what I'm showing you? Do you get the insight from this? He may even put you in a position that is so close, but you're still protected because it doesn't directly impact you, but it does on a soul level. That is why it's so imperative, family, to learn from those who have walked before you. Take in the wisdom through experience. That is why it's so important, family, to be able to find comfort in your communication. It doesn't matter how articulate you are, as long as it comes from a pure place. And as long as you stay committed to that, your viewpoint, your reality will be made new. The choice is how bad you want it. Because it's going to cost you something. It's going to cost you validity of what you see as your perception and what makes your ideology. And you will be challenged. And it's sad. It's real sad because, you know, the roles and the human dynamic have flipped. And what was deemed factual, we're starting to see that it was inaccurate. I could go in a totally different lane about what is presented to be fact from fiction. I could totally go there, but I'm not. That is why it's so important, no matter what's going outside your door, what's going on indirectly or directly, it matters not. It matters not until you decide to step or put yourself in that environment. That is why it's so important, family, that you have that relationship with yourself first and foremost. That's what intimacy is about. But if you allow the people in the cheap seats to distract you, they will tell you that intimacy is based off of the physicality. Well, if that's the case, why is it when you have a disappointment, it has no form, but it has an impact? Why? Because it's always about the spirit and will always be, because ultimately truth will be birthed from what opportunity is given. Who am I talking to? So why are you sitting over there stressing over somebody that ain't stressing for you? Why are you keeping company with someone that does not value the communication that comes from you? Why do you find allegiance and loyalty to someone that is not loyal to themselves? Why? Because we romanticize the distraction. You have people now that are so proud, so narcissistic. They will gladly say, I've got a PhD in my sexual prowess, but I'm delinquent when it comes to my self-value. Who am I talking to? You don't believe me? Just look at social media today. Because it is about free will. As long as you've got a means to tap in, whatever you need, you can find. Why? Because there's no filters there. There will never be filters there. That is why it's so important, family, that knowledge of self should be paramount. The more you know on you, the more you grow. But you know the devil's work is never done. You do know that, right? And the devil loves nothing more than blindside you with something, or bring a person into your life when you know that you're on path. Because as long as you are committed to you, guess what? Doors will be open just as well as doors will be closed. And it's not to punish you, it's to prepare you, ultimately to protect you. Because the more that you know, the more sound decisions you can make. Why? Because there's only one you. So, why are you going to allow your environment to dictate your life story? Maybe your environment was the distraction all along. Maybe there was something that was titillating or stimulating your curiosity so much so that you forgot about you. Who am I talking to? So why you think you feel that inertia when people part ways? You feel that longing. Haven't you come to understand, or maybe you will take aware of this? If this person possessed those key elements, you still be with them. But we always want what we don't have, or what we don't, what should be a need, and we try to put the band-aid over it instead of ripping the scab off and allowing the things that are toxic to be purged from ourselves. I put a video out yesterday talking about the upcoming season known as Christmas. And ultimately, it is about what? The celebration of Jesus. The season of giving. But how can you fulfill that prophecy if you ain't giving to yourself? Or worse, if you're always giving and it's not reciprocal yourself. Just like a well that is filled with precious water, eventually it will run dry. That's not your story. It never was. Because I'm here to tell you for your future self. Your future self is waiting on you to tighten your boots, to stand up, breathe in that precious air, and say, now is the time. Can you do that? Can you do that? Can you tell yourself, now is the time? No more running away. Because all you're doing is running from your illusions. But haven't you noticed that the more you run, the more harder it is to see what is right in front of you? Why? Because ultimately, from a mortal standpoint, it robs you from your focus of what you need to be attending to, not where you want or where you need to be. So why are you tripping because he ain't called you? Be grateful. He's not going to be your husband. Why are you tripping because now she didn't turned off her sexuality towards you? Be grateful. She's not to be the one that's going to inherit your last name. And see, right now, you have a lot of things going on where people are finding comfort. They're finding comfort in condonement. And they're saying, well, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm just going to give you this, and what you do with it, you do with it. But don't get mad because I didn't give you this. Why are you settling? Why are you settling? Maybe this is the moment that you're going to get comfortable with that beautiful word called no. Yeah, N-O. Because the word no does not mean forever. The word no means under review. So if you're going to review something, that means you must be ethically honest for what is required. Because I'm going to tell you what, there's a lot of people waking up brokenhearted. Waking up lost, choosing to stay in their disappointment. That is nothing but an attempt to block your blessings. And let's be honest. Let's be honest, Cameron. A lot of it is fear. Finally, everything a reality. But you know what's on the other side of your fear? Your greatness. I would rather try wholeheartedly and fail and learn from the experience than not try at all. So who's loving you if you ain't loving you? You do understand that the energy you put out is the energy you're going to receive, right? And meanwhile, while we're looking over there, why aren't you looking within yourself first? Make time for you. When's the last time you took yourself out for entertainment? But keep in mind, your life is not about being the entertainment. Your life is an experience, and only a selective few will inherit the right to walk with you, to be able to understand what your dreams and hopes are. Not everybody is going to be able to hear you breathe. This is a big planet, family. But everybody has to tow their own rope. And what I mean by tow their own rope is shoulder the responsibility for your legacy, your lineage. I mean, you don't actually think you're on this planet just to eat, take up air, and die, do you? No, that's not your story. But if you allow them, those who have access to your life, to convince you of that, guess what? The devil wins. The devil wins. The devil wins. Because until you decide, I need more of me, can you emotionally be free? Who am I talking to? Blink twice, family. It'll be a new year. And yes, I am going to put the annual message of review and what to look out for. But at the end of the day, it's only you hear what you hear. Some people won't even admit the fact that they're quick to put labels and labels on their life and say, well, yeah, you know what? I got a sexual addiction. So what? I like it. But guess what? You quick to claim that, but you won't claim what you need. That's about that. That's about that social compromise. You'll talk about the things that take away from you instead of being authentic and say, well, you know what? At this moment, I was there, but I realized I was there because of this or that. Who am I talking to? You realize how many people that socially have stigmas about themselves or have vices about themselves? Those are nothing but attempts to distract you from what really is going on about them. Well, I can't focus because really I'm an alcoholic. But why are you an alcoholic? You're an alcoholic because you feel a certain way. And what is it that makes you feel that way? Why won't you have the courage to look at that? I mean, if anything, let's look at it from a literal standpoint of this. Say human beings had the same makeup of an onion. You know, an onion. And you know how you cut an onion in half? And you look at it from the core, it has many layers. And from the core, you find its most strength in its aroma. Right? It's the same thing as with your life. Everything that you attract to your life is a direct correlation of what you are inside you. Spirit King. If your mind's not right, your life ain't right. Maybe that's the reason why you find truth or what you think is truth in being intimidated. You say, well, you know what? I'd rather be feared than loved. But guess what? Being feared than loved means you have no peace of mind. You got to constantly look over your shoulder. You got to remember where you were and who you were with. You got to remember what you said. That ain't life. That's a sentence. So you can't expect your abundance to come from that. Your abundance is a reflection of your spirit. So from a literal standpoint, hey, if your mind's not right, your money not going to be right. Your money's not right because your environment makes you feel unsafe. And that's one of the biggest problems we have in society. A lot of people won't admit they are not emotionally safe. So they settle. Well, you know, I got a type. You don't have a type. You have a condition. And the condition is you settle. You settle instead of invest in what you need. But there's a trade-off on that, family, because I told you, your future self is waiting for you to evolve, to take on the responsibilities of what's to come, of the things that you know nothing about, the things that are already in place for you to champion. And guess what? Your mate, you know, the one, because God has someone for everybody. But if that person doesn't have a relationship with God first, guess what? They don't have a relationship with themselves. So you can't expect them to understand where they're going. But sadly, they'll never have a relationship for you. Why? Because they refuse to invest in themselves. That's why people are arguing so much. That's why people are what they think is a relationship is nothing but a ploy to distract them from what they need. You know what? If people started to be honest, you realize how different the world would be. You realize that? You realize if people were more authentic with themselves, how different your life would be? But the truth of the matter is, majority of these people are afraid to claim their lives. And they choose to stay in the masquerade. They love to stay distracted. But those are the same people you see down the road that are in their low place. Because guess what? God gets tired too. He does. And God will sit you down. So look here. You don't see that setback that's waiting around the corner. But I've showed you time and time again, every time you take a step to go that route, you get met with a setback, a distraction. Why won't you see the synchronicities of what I'm showing you? Because pride is in their soul. You know, you got people today, 2017, that will not, they don't even have the courage to look at themselves naked. Instead of turning your nose up and saying, wow, look how amazing I am. You're alive. But guess what? Every masterpiece made from stone started from one form, and that was raw. There was a raw form. And it took time to break those rough edges off. I'll break it down even better. How you think diamonds the sparkle is the way it is? It all was hidden within. It all began through time. and there was coal. The ugly lump of coal. Pressure. Without pressure, there's no motivation. There's no intent. Time. The time requires the purpose. And eventually, the rough edges come off. What was being protected the whole time, you, the real you was starting to be seen. And the more you focused on you, the more the world took note. See, right now, society says, hey, don't see value in your body. But more or less, stay distracted because I don't want you to invest in that beautiful mind either. I can't afford that. I need you to go ahead and put that shackle back on your neck and stay the course. No different than livestock led to slaughter. Go ahead. Going out there to the pasture and graze and get plumped up. And when it's time for me to impact your life, I'll lead you to your destruction. It's no different than today. That's why now more than ever, there was so much of a social embrace of well, let's like for example, let's say smoking weed. You know why it's that way now? Because they know scientifically, yes, that is a sacred plant. It has 360 natural elements that comes from it. But too much of a good thing is not good for you. But they also know the overall effect is your clarity is blurred. So they're going to support that. And it only took but so much time because now the government says, look here, just like alcohol, we don't care if you drink till you blue in the face, as long as we get our cut. That's why it was taboo. That's why. And now greed is made number one. And you have so many people that have a capitalistic attitude. So no, go ahead and push that. Because ultimately, we want your babies. We want your babies. Because guess what? Your babies will grow up. And once your babies mature, now I've got unconditional loyalty because of behavior. And what is a behavior? A behavior is a pattern. But how did a behavior become a pattern? It was a thought that was embraced. So if that thought, before it can manifest to a behavior or action, you ever consider where it came from? What was the influence? Why don't we see that? Because it requires you to critically think. And that's why when clarity does come, the people that need to take accountability are nowhere to be seen. Who am I talking to? And so, in other words, if you're tired of being broke, invest in yourself. Did you hear me? You're tired of your money being funny. Number one thing you can do right off the bat, live like you're broke. If you think like you're broke, you will save money. You put structure in your finances will grow. But you have some people that are actually addicted to the structure. They respond. Like, for example, you have some people that have the financial means to live a very comfortable life, but they don't feel comfortable unless they have to deal with bill collectors, cold calling, people to be a nuisance. That's like putting training wheels on a bike. Wow, that's another enabling tool. So when are you going to take the training wheels off your heart? But as long as you listen to your girlfriends, well, girl, I'm going to go ahead and Go find me a man. You go ahead and find that man if you want to. Demons do exist and they do manifest in all forms. And he might look like he fell from a magazine, but his heart is cold. Or worse, he may be the one that will stimulate your body to no end, but there's no love there. Why? Because they don't love themselves. They don't value themselves, so they can't value their time. That's why they're very nomadic and very sporadic, and they're impulsive. So what I'm trying to tell y'all is this: take the blinders off. Yes, it's going to be bright, but find your focal point. Find your focal point and take that first step back to you. A lot of people won't do it. They're actually have a mentality of, well, if I take that step closer, one step back, then I might fall on my face. But guess what? You know what that means? That means that's one step closer to your foundation of what is solid compared to what was illusion all along. You deserve to be happy. But your happiness is not based off of who you choose to fellowship. The people you fellowship are only there as a living representation of your state of mind. So stop looking for somebody being your savior. It's your savior. And start looking for you. And watch. The moment that you change your viewpoint, that is the moment your reality changes. You're worth it. And oh yeah, don't worry about the people in the cheap seats. Because guess what? You might be in a dynamic where you gave all you could and they didn't appreciate it. And guess what? Sometimes God will come in and put division there and move you up out of there. Don't worry. People come into your life to be your lesson or your blessing, but it's not your place to judge anybody. It is your position to embrace what has been shown. That's your wisdom. That's your wisdom. That's your wisdom, not your denial. God's praying for you. You know I am. I see your worth. And for that, it helps me discern. Wow, you got all these people, you know, they waving that flag like, hey, I'm Captain Sexuality, but those are the most broken people, and they don't even realize it. They don't even realize it. So think about it. If somebody's willing to sacrifice or serve up their sexuality before they treasure your individuality, that's a table you ain't supposed to sit on, because that table has misery written all over it. Be blessed.